We're continuing to track headlines here back stateside. The Trump administration is agreeing to use the conservative media network One America News, or OAN, to feed content to some American-funded media services, namely the Voice of America. What's the Voice of America, you might ask? It was a U.S.-funded media outlet that produced programming in over 40 languages, and its primary audience was not Americans outside U.S. borders. And then in March, the outlet was essentially silenced, with all full-time employees being sent an email that they've been placed on leave, and those people have been on leave ever since. We have one of them standing by. Alex Gorbachev is on leave from the VOA's Russian service. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too, Austin.
So I talked with you back when the news broke about some 1,300 employees being put on leave from the Voice of America. There's a story to be told, Alex, about what's happening to those employees. We'll get to that in a moment, but I got to ask you about the OAN piece of this. What was your reaction when you heard that your former workplace, I know you're not full-time there anymore, what was your reaction when you heard that they may start to take the shape of something like OAN?
My first reaction was that it's not possible because it's not how the Voice of America was established to broadcast its news. Because there is a VOA charter, there is a firewall which specifically prohibits administration from any interference into its editorial policies. And also, like VOA charter, it specifically requires us to broadcast news which would be unbiased, which would provide to our audience perspective about not just one segment of the American society, but different segments of the American society. It shouldn't be on the right side. It shouldn't be on the left side. It was always, Voice of America was always like nonpartisan, neutral media outlet. And One American News, it's different. It's more on the right side of the political spectrum. It has its audience. So some people, they would prefer One American News over the Voice of America. Some people would prefer CNN. But under the current VOA charter, there is no way Voice of America would be able to anyhow use any content produced by One American News, just because it's considered by media analysts, it's more like a pro-Trump kind of network. So unless like the VOA charter is canceled, firewall is canceled, and current laws regarding Voice of America operations are changed, it's just not feasible at all.
I'm sure this will surprise people at home because of your thick American accent, Alex, but you were born and raised in Russia. Are you seeing any parallels between how the Kremlin does media and how the current White House is doing media?
You know, Austin, it reminded me a lot about the episode from my childhood. When I was in the elementary school, Putin became a president, and first thing that he did, he just dismantled, silenced the Russian national TV network called NTV. It was a channel which was anti-Putin. And the way how it had been done, how it had been performed, it reminded me of what happened at the VOA, because Putin, he just appointed certain people to lead the NTV. It just completely changed its editorial policies. Versus what we're seeing here at the VOA, but Putin was never that direct. Putin was, we will protect journalists, we will preserve this unique team of journalists, we just want to get rid of oligarchs. Versus here, it's just like more straightforward. You're not pro-Trump, you're voice of radical America. So we just we don't like your questions. So we will just like terminate contracts of 1,300 journalists who are working with us, and those who are from China, Russia, Iran, or countries with lack of press freedom, or where no press freedom at all. You're just these journalists who were terminated from the VOA and who were on visas, you're just going back. And if you will be persecuted, doesn't matter, not our problem anymore. And talking about media landscape in general, there are some similarities, because first thing that Putin did when he became a president, he started to silence his team. They started to silence journalists in Putin's presidential pool who were like anti-Putin or who would ask rough questions. But again, it was he had done it very indirectly. So just like in a few years, they just removed all those journalists from the presidential pool. And the presidential pool in Russia, it functions very similar to here, because in Russia, the only way for journalists to ask president a question is to be a part of the pool. And versus here, we see there are some signs. For example, AP was banned from the Oval Office. Trump and his press secretary, they're pretty vocal that they dislike, certain journalists or certain questions. But at the same time, media landscape is so different here because you have decades and decades, many, many years of independent journalism. You have established independent media. So of course, the scale is completely different. And even though America is not a symbol of press freedom for the rest of the globe after what happened with the VOA and after, signals and patterns we see right now, how the White House handles media in general, I cannot draw parallels with Russia. I cannot draw any parallels with Russia because it's just like we cannot compare, and like America is just still so much better in terms of press freedom. And just as a conclusion, to give some credit to Trump, like he still speaks with journalists, he's still like pretty open with media. Journalists still can ask him rough questions, and he's like more open with media compared to like his predecessor. So it's not that black and white yet, but there are some like concerning signs, unfortunately.
We do see a lot of Trump Q&As. So Alex, Charles Herring, he's the president of OAN. He told the AP how OAN is used on Voice of America is in VOA's hands. He says they simply wished to help when they were asked to. So correct me if I'm wrong, Alex. We still don't have clarity on how exactly OAN will be worked into the VOA system. How could OAN leverage VOA's infrastructure in the future? The VOA has a pretty big reach.
Yeah, so right now VOA is suspended. Like VOA's broadcast is suspended, so VOA is like not working and it's not broadcasting. And the reach is different because VOA's reach is more than 300 million people versus One American News reach. According to public data, at least it's like 100,000, 150,000, at least like according like what we see on the internet. There is no way it can be like this website or this network, One American News, can be leveraged by the Voice of America or anyhow incorporated into the VOA's broadcast due to several reasons. One, it's not the wire service, because first thing Kari Lake did when she stepped into the office, she just terminated contracts with wire services such as Reuters, Associated Press, and Agency France Press, AFP. And wire services, they were crucial for our broadcast, not just because of news itself, but just mostly because of like videos, So for example, if we would need a news feed from like Paris, immediately or like instantly, or from like Moscow or from Turkey, where Zelensky is having a meeting, for example, like with Erdogan, we would be able to, like VOA was able to get it immediately from the wire services, versus One American News, which was OAN, which was offered as an alternative. It just doesn't have this capacity. It's basically a website with some like news feed and some like talk shows. They don't. At least I haven't even seen if they like do any like video packages beside those talk shows. And what VOA needs, it's just like the wide network of correspondents, in Paris, Moscow, China, across the United States. And I don't see if One America News has it at all. And even though I think it was generally very nice of them to offer, their services, it just there is no way Voice of America would be able to use it. One, because of just like legislative perspective, because it's against the VOA charter, and it's again just ethical standards, because you cannot broadcast media or use media which is more like far leaning. And second, just because it doesn't have the capacity, it has no use for the VOA, because what we need is the network of correspondence. We need a news feed, video feed, and that's what we were able to get from the wire services. But like this scheme, which was proposed by Kari Lake, it just simply wouldn't work. And it's evident to everyone who is working in a journalism field.
Kari Lake is the head of the VOA. She was appointed by Trump, and she was, people might know her name because she ran for both senator and governor of Arizona unsuccessfully. Before we go, Alex, and by the way, I got to say, it is kind of bizarre looking at the VOA website right now. If anybody goes to the website today, I just looked an hour ago, all the news on it is from March. It's from mid-March when all this happened. It's almost like a time capsule. Before we go, Alex, let's talk about your colleagues at the VOA. What I read is that more than 1,300 people were placed on leave in March. A lot of them are on visas, correct? What's happened with them in 2 months' time?
Yeah, right now they're actually started firing people again. So right now we have around 1,250 people still, as you said, on the administrative leave. And Kari Lake and her team, they're already fired 50 people. But after the court ruling, they decided not to fire everyone in one day. They're just like firing people in chunks, in like 10 people one day, 5 people another day. And as you mentioned, Austin, yes, indeed, there are some people on J1 visas. We have a few dozens of people on J1 visas. This type of visa was issued specifically by the Voice of America, by the U.S. Agency for Global Media, VOA's kind of mother organization. And they issued these type of visas for journalists from different countries because they wanted to invite them to the United States, but only to work specifically with U.S. international broadcaster. Because, salary at the VOA, it was never very competitive. So they didn't want people to start looking for other jobs, when they were, after they were invited to the United States, work with the VOA. So this type of visa, it's very tricky because once the contract is terminated, your visa is automatically terminated. And it creates kind of like a very difficult perspective for them in terms of legal authorization of work in the United States, or just simply like living in the United States, because in case, they're stopped being paid, they're terminated. They don't have money to pay rent. They cannot pay for their insurance. But your lease or your mortgage or your car payment, it wouldn't end, automatically with your J1 visa termination. No one will terminate your lease or like your mortgage or your car payments. So, and because of this visa, like they don't have authorization to live in the United States, but also they cannot get another job because they're not legally authorized to work here. So what I heard, what people are doing, some of them are considering to apply for a political asylum. Some of them, they still do believe in United States judiciary system because they believe that they really were doing a great thing working for the U.S. international broadcasting, and that its operation should be resumed and they would be reinstated. And some of them, I think they're just panicking and feel betrayed because they were hoping that they will establish their lives here working for the U.S. government. And right now they're basically on the verge of just being on the street.
Alex, that's a tough story to tell. Alex himself is a reporter. It's tough how to even say it. You're on leave. You've been on leave for 2 months. You have not been fired officially. So I'll just say you're a reporter who's on leave from the VOA's Russia service. It's always good to catch up with you, man. Take care. Have a good night.
Good to see you, Austin.